In the quiet, dusty town of Ndukwa, a girl named Ebele used to sing like the wind, soft, strong, and impossible to ignore. She sang everywhere. While sweeping the compound, fetching water, or cooking beside her mother. People would stop and listen. Some even whispered, "That girl will be famous one day." Ebele believed it too. She didn't have much, but she had her voice and an old guitar her uncle had given her. Every evening she'd sit by the mango tree and sing to the stars, dreaming of big stages and loud applause. One day her dream took a small but powerful step forward. She won a regional audition in a nearby town. Her voice had earned her a spot to compete on a bigger stage, something that could change her life forever. She came home glowing, holding the letter like it was made of gold. But Mama Agatha didn't smile. She didn't hug her. She just stared at the letter, then at Ebele and sighed deeply. That night, while Ebele was at the neighbors helping with chores, Mama took the guitar, the one thing that carried her daughter's dream, and sold it at the local market. With the money, she paid her brother's dowry. When Ebele returned and saw the empty corner where her guitar always rested, her heart broke. "Why, Mama?" she whispered, tears filling her eyes. Mama didn't flinch. "Music is for the rich," she said, her voice sharp. "Dreams don't put food on this table." In one night, Ebele's melody fell silent. Her voice, once full of hope, became a quiet ache inside her. The girl who once sang to the stars now spoke only in whispers, because sometimes, silence is the sound of a dream being crushed. Ebele left Ndukwa with nothing but a small bag, her worn notebook, and the voice she no longer used. She didn't say goodbye to anyone, not even Mama. The pain was still too fresh, the memory of her guitar gone, her dream taken, and her heart bruised. She boarded a crowded bus to Ekit, a place where no one knew her name, and no one expected her to sing. Life in Ekit was hard. She worked long hours cleaning stalls, washing clothes, and sometimes serving food at roadside shops. The pay was little, but it kept her going. She slept in a dusty storeroom at the back of a church, curled up on old sacks with a borrowed blanket. Most nights, the sound of the choir practicing would float through the walls, and she'd close her eyes, pretending it was her voice leading them. But she never joined in. She stayed quiet. Her dream wasn't dead, just hidden. Even though the world outside had silenced her, inside her heart, the music was still alive. Every night, when no one was watching, she'd take out her notebook and write lyrics under the dim light of a candle. She'd hum softly into her pillow, so low that even the rats wouldn't hear. That little hum became her comfort, her prayer, her secret weapon. It reminded her that her voice still belonged to her, and Mama couldn't take that. Some nights she cried, missing her old life, missing the feeling of holding her guitar. But after the tears, she always picked up her pen. Because deep down, Ebele knew something the world hadn't seen yet. Her voice wasn't gone. It was just waiting for the right moment to rise again. One sunny afternoon in Ekit, Ebele stood on a busy street corner with her friend's borrowed guitar. Her hands were shaking. It was her first time singing in public in years. But something inside her whispered, "Do it." So she did. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and let her voice flow, raw, honest, full of pain and beauty. People slowed down. Some stopped completely. Her voice, soft yet powerful, pulled at hearts like a magnet. A tourist walking by filmed the performance. Just a short clip. He posted it online with the caption, "This girl's voice gave me chills." Ebele didn't even know she was being recorded. She packed up after 2 songs and went home with a few naira and a warm smile on her face. She didn't think much of it. Just another day trying to survive. But by the next morning, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The video had gone viral. Thousands of shares. Comments pouring in from all over the world. "Who is she? I can't stop listening. She sings like she's been through everything." And she had. Within 2 weeks, a music label from across sent her a message. They wanted to talk. They wanted to fly her out. They wanted to hear more. Ebele stared at the email, her hands shaking again. This time with disbelief. She didn't even have proper shoes to travel, but she had something more important. Her voice finally being heard. The girl Mama told to be quiet was now trending. People were downloading her voice, remixing it, crying to it. What had once been silenced in a small town now echoed in homes, cafes, radios, and phones across the continent. Ebele couldn't believe it. All it took was one song, one moment, one spark. She looked up at the sky that night and whispered, "I'm still here, Mama. And I never stopped singing." Ebele knew the world would ask questions about her past, her story, and the pain she carried. So when the record deal became real, and her songs started spreading like wildfire, she made a choice. She changed her name. From that moment on, she was no longer Ebele from Ndukwa. She became Zilaa. A name that felt like rebirth, like freedom, like finally becoming the person she was always meant to be. With her first big paycheck, Zilaa didn't buy fancy clothes or a car. She rented a tiny studio space and turned it into magic. Bit by bit, she bought equipment, hired 2 sound engineers, a songwriter, and even a young girl who reminded her of herself, shy but full of fire. Together they built something powerful. A team, a sound, a movement. She didn't just want to be famous. She wanted to open doors for others like her. Those with big voices and no one listening. Her music climbed the charts fast. One hit, then another, then a third. Before long, Zilaa's name was behind 3 of the top 10 songs across Africa. Her voice was on radios, in clubs, in weddings, and even played during football matches. But still, back in Ndukwa, Mama Agatha sat on her front porch telling anyone who would listen, "My daughter wasted her life. Ran off chasing noise. She could have been something useful." Zilaa never corrected her. She never called. Never wrote. It wasn't out of anger, not anymore. It was something deeper. She didn't want to prove anything. She wanted to build, to grow, to heal. And part of that healing meant letting her success speak without needing Mama to hear it. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's silent, steady, and full of grace. Every time a fan screamed her name, every time a new artist thanked her for a chance, Zilaa smiled quietly. She had made it. And Mama didn't even know. But one day she would. Zilaa stood in front of a massive white mansion on a 4 road in Owerri, sunglasses on, heart racing. She had just bought it in full. Not under her real name, of course. Everything was handled through her company. No one would trace it back to Ebele, the girl from Ndukwa who once cried herself to sleep in a church storeroom. This house wasn't for her. It was for someone else. Someone who once broke her heart, and still lived in it. She walked through each room with the interior designer, choosing everything with care. She asked for a large kitchen, not just beautiful but strong, with deep counters, old-style pots, and a wood-burning stove. Just like Mama Agatha used to dream of when she spoke about building her real kitchen someday. In the living room, she added soft brown sofas Mama would like. In the garden, she had them plant rows of hibiscus flowers, Mama's favorite, the kind she used to pluck on Sunday mornings to place beside her Bible. Everything had a reason. Every lamp, every tile, every flower was a piece of a quiet apology. Zilaa never said out loud what the mansion meant. She didn't post it online, didn't tell friends, didn't drop hints. This gift wasn't about the world seeing it. It was about Mama feeling it. She watched the workers finish up, then stood alone in the quiet of the hallway. It smelled like fresh paint and something new. Something clean. She could already imagine Mama walking in, gasping, maybe even crying. But she didn't rush that moment. She wanted it to come naturally, without her name attached. The silence was part of the surprise. Part of the love. Sometimes the loudest "I forgive you" doesn't need words. It just needs a house built brick by brick, with memory, pain, and love hidden in every corner. It was an ordinary morning in Ndukwa. Mama Agatha was sweeping the front of her little mud house, same as always. The sun was already hot, and her back ached, but she didn't complain. Life had made her tough. Then out of nowhere, a shiny black car pulled up in front of her gate. She frowned, squinting at the stranger who stepped out in a clean suit, holding a brown envelope and a small set of gold keys. "Good morning, Ma," the man said politely. "I'm here on behalf of a client. Someone has purchased this home for you." Mama stared, confused. "Purchased what?" "This house. And not just this one. They've also given you a new one. A real house. In Owerri." He handed her a large white envelope. Inside were legal papers, a map, and photos of a mansion. A mansion so beautiful, so impossible, she nearly dropped the envelope. She stepped back, heart pounding. "Is this a joke?" "No joke, Ma. Here are the keys." He gently placed them in her palm, gold keys, heavy, real. Tears welled up in her eyes. Who would do this for me?" The lawyer smiled kindly. "They didn't leave a name. But they said something. He looked her in the eye. They said your daughter is no one, but no one just gave you a mansion. Mama's lips began to tremble. She clutched the keys tight, her hands shaking. For years she had told people Ebele wasted her life. That chasing music was foolish. That she ran off and disappeared. And now this. A gift too big to understand. She dropped to the bench outside her house, her heart full of questions, her eyes full of tears. She looked up at the sky, whispering her daughter's name for the first time in years. Not in anger, but in something closer to hope. She didn't know where Ebele was. She didn't know what had become of her. But in that moment, sitting under the same old tree with gold keys in hand, she knew one thing. Her daughter hadn't forgotten her. The house in Owerri was glowing. Lights shimmered, music floated through the halls, and guests dressed in fine clothes laughed in toasted glasses. It was the housewarming of the year. Hosted by the rising music star everyone now knew as Zilaa. No one knew her real name and she liked it that way. Until today. In the middle of the celebration, as a small band played soft drums and strings, Zilaa stepped onto the stage. Dressed in white, with her hair tied back and her eyes glowing with calm fire, she picked up the mic. The room went quiet. And then she began to sing. Her voice filled the air, rich and beautiful, just like it used to back under the mango tree in Ndukwa. But this time it wasn't just a song, it was a message. And someone very important had just arrived to hear it. Mama Agatha walked in slowly, holding her handbag tight, her eyes wide. She had followed the directions, taken the ride, and now stood in a home too grand for her to imagine. The smell of hibiscus greeted her at the door. The kitchen looked like something from a magazine. But it wasn't until she heard the voice, that her knees buckled. She stared at the woman on stage, tears already forming. You did this?" she whispered, her voice shaking. Zilaa smiled gently and stepped down from the stage. She reached for her mother's hands, lifted her up slowly. "Yes, Mama," she said, her voice soft but strong. "You sold my dreams once. But I bought yours back. Brick by brick." Mama broke. The years of silence, the regret, the heavy pride. All of it melted in that one moment. She held her daughter close, crying into her shoulder, surrounded by strangers who now knew the truth. The famous singer wasn't just Zilaa. She was Ebele, the girl Mama once told to be quiet. And now her voice was louder than ever. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the lights had dimmed, Mama Agatha sat on the soft sofa in the big new living room, her hands still trembling. Ebele Zilaa sat beside her, quiet, patient, waiting. The house was peaceful, but inside Mama's heart, a storm was breaking. She turned to her daughter, eyes wet with years of guilt. "I remember the day I sold your guitar," she said in a whisper, almost like a confession. "I can still hear the sound of the empty corner where it used to sit." Her voice cracked. "I wasn't trying to hurt you, Ebele. I was just scared. Scared you'd fail. That you'd starve. That the world would chew you up and spit you out." Ebele looked at her, calm but raw. "I know, Mama," she said softly. Then after a pause she added, "But maybe you were really scared I'd fly." Those words sat heavy in the air, honest and sharp. Mama's shoulders collapsed as she covered her face and began to cry. Not just for what she had done, but for all the years she could never get back. The birthdays missed, the songs she never heard, the journey she never witnessed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know how to love a dream I didn't understand." Ebele didn't say anything at first. She just reached over and pulled her mother into a warm, full hug. The kind that says, "I still love you," even without words. No speeches. No lectures. Just the quiet sound of two hearts finding each other again. Because sometimes, success doesn't come with fireworks or big announcements. Sometimes it's just a daughter holding her mother close. Sometimes it's not revenge. It's peace. In that silence, Mama finally understood. Her daughter hadn't just become a star. She had become someone bigger than fame, someone who could forgive. Not long after the housewarming, Ebele returned to Ndukwa. Not as the girl who left with a broken heart, but as the woman who came back with purpose. The same dusty roads, the same familiar trees, the same old stares from neighbors. But this time she was different. Stronger. Free. She didn't come to show off. She came to build. In the center of the village, just down the road from the old market, construction began on a bright, colorful building. People watched in curiosity. Some whispered, some guessed. But when the sign finally went up, their eyes widened in surprise. Mama Nina Academy of Music and Dreams. It was named after Ebele's late grandmother, the only person who had once told her, "Your voice is a gift. Don't hide it." The academy wasn't just for music. It was a place where young girls could dream out loud, sing, write, learn instruments, and more importantly, believe in themselves. Ebele hired teachers, built classrooms, filled shelves with notebooks and songbooks. She made sure the doors were open to every girl, rich or poor, shy or bold. But the biggest surprise of all? Mama Agatha came every day too. She wasn't there to teach singing. That was never her gift. But she spoke to the girls about strength, choices, and how not every adult gets it right the first time. She shared her own mistakes, her own regrets, and how proud she was of her daughter. The woman who once silenced dreams now protected them. Carefully. Fiercely. Soon, the children started calling her something new. Mama Music. The name spread through the village like a warm breeze. And for the first time, Mama Agatha smiled at it. Not out of pride in herself, but in what her daughter had become. Ebele didn't just chase her dream. She came back for others. Because true success isn't only about rising. Sometimes it's about reaching back and pulling others up with you. And Ebele, the girl once told to be quiet, was now teaching a whole generation to sing. The lights in the grand hall of the Lagos Women of Power Awards were bright. Cameras flashing from every corner. Powerful women from across Africa filled the room. Leaders, artists, activists. And right in the center of the stage stood Ebele, known to the world as Zilaa, dressed in gold, her voice steady, her heart full. She had just finished performing a song that held pieces of her story. The pain, the silence, the rise. The room was still catching its breath when she stepped up to the mic again. This time not to sing, but to speak. "I was once a girl from a small town called Ndukwa," she began. "I dreamed of singing, but my mother didn't believe in that dream. She believed in survival. And so one day she sold my guitar and told me music was for the rich." The audience leaned in, hanging on to every word. "But I didn't stop dreaming," she continued. "I didn't stop singing. Even when no one heard me, I kept going. Because sometimes your belief in yourself is all you've got. And in my case," she paused, eyes shining, "it was enough." The crowd stood as one. Applause echoed through the hall, rising like thunder. In the front row, Mama Agatha stood too, tears in her eyes, clapping with both hands and all her heart. No more shame. No more regret. Only pride. Her daughter's voice had once been silenced. But now it had risen, not just for herself, but for every girl who'd ever been told to be quiet.